Hi guys, today I'm making a recipe that's near and dear to my heart. It's authentic Italian Calabrese style bruschetta, not the ones you'll find in typical or most restaurants. It's a family handed down recipe, so I hope you stay with me and check it out. Now, most of you will know the ingredients for this recipe. It is still bruschetta after all, but I do want to run down an important aspect of the actual recipe itself, and that's the bread. The bread is very different. It's actually considered a bread husk. It's very hard, and this is actually bread that typically my parents would tell me would be left, for days, and instead of wasting it or throwing it out, they would do this particular style of Calabrese bruschetta. So the bread is really key in this recipe. It's integral. And you'll see why else in a minute. It's also in the way of the preparation. Again, it's still a bruschetta, but it's the way it's prepared that's quite different. These are the ingredients you're going to be needing for this recipe. You're going to need white frese or whole wheat, any one. They come in different shapes, round or square. Doesn't really matter which one you use, as long as you get the frese. They're in a husk format, so you need those. You'll need some whole garlic cloves, some really ripe tomatoes, fresh basil, shaved Parmesan, of course some extra virgin olive oil, a bit of balsamic glaze, and then I've already chopped up the typical topping of the bruschetta that you've probably seen, which is diced tomatoes. In this case, I have yellow tomatoes from a friend's garden, but you can use any color really that you want. Some garlic, olive oil, and parsley. It's been marinating in there for several hours. That's all you're going to need. Let's get to it. Before we get started, I have the grill at about 200. We're not really grilling anything per se with this recipe, but we are warming up the bread and then serving this warm. So first things we're going to do is grab garlic, and this is whole garlic. And you'll see what I love about this. I'm going to actually come in closer here. The hardness of the bread, the dryness of the bread is actually acting as a way of scraping fresh garlic into that. Okay? And that's what's actually going to not only give it some flavor, but start to soften the bread up, flavor it as well. So we're going to scratch that right on to all of these pieces of bread here, right till it almost gets down to the nail. My dad used to tell me stories about this meal when we were much younger, that when he was in the mountains, in the little towns with his family post World War II, literally on a donkey, 40-degree weather in the middle of southern Italy, and trying to sell vegetables in these little towns, this would be his lunch. He'd take a piece of this bread, fresh garlic like this, scrape it on, and that's how he'd eat his lunch. Now, what happens is too, all the little dryness of the bread kind of holds the garlic as well. Now your hands are going to smell like garlic, but that's okay. Then what we're going to do is we're going to get a very ripe tomato. Okay, you almost want the juices to be kind of coming out of the tomato. There's a reason for that. That's also going to reconstitute the dryness of the bread. So again, you just take it and gently squeeze it on the bread itself. I'm going to do that to all the pieces here. Make sure you want to get it nice and liberally coated. Ooh, wow, this is real TV, folks. Okay, almost done with all of them here. Now again, we're not going to throw out the rest of these tomatoes. We're actually going to cut them and incorporate them with the other pre-cut tomatoes that I have, so we don't throw anything out. Now my dad used to say to me, this is exactly how he would eat it. He'd actually just take a bite of this. Really good, by the way. Take a bite of this, and that would be his lunch. The bruschetta that we've come to kind of know today with the topping is really done when they were at home. You wouldn't have had time to do this at a lunch or anything like that. So when we were at home, that's how we would actually make it, is with the topping on top. Now that I've got all my husks covered with the scraped garlic and the juice of the pulp of the tomato scraped on as well, I'm going to put just a little bit of olive oil. Again, this is just to reconstitute and flavor the bread. I'm just going to do it very lightly and gently over top. So those husks have warmed up nicely. I'm going to be taking them off the grill now. Take them all off the grill. And what I'm going to do is, I mentioned earlier that I had chopped up the top of the bruschetta and I let it marinate with some olive oil, garlic and parsley, and there's actually quite a bit of that juice, the pulp, and the oil that's come out. So what we're going to do is actually pour a little bit more over top of the husks. Again, this is really just going to help reconstitute and flavor the bread at the same time. One of the differences, if you will, of the taste of this bruschetta and anything else that you might find at any other restaurant. We're going to do that to all of them. I'm going to take them off. And then we're going to heat them up again and let them stay for a couple more moments before we top them up and finally get ready to serve them. And these will still be soft but also crunchy at the same time. And boy, can you really smell the aroma of that garlic. It's just gorgeous. Just such an inventive little recipe. You know, it's not fancy or anything like that, but you know how brilliant that they took something that was everyday and something that could have otherwise been considered waste or, you know, old bread, and they just turned it into something that tastes amazing, right? And it's the bruschetta that we know today. Let's put the rest of these on the grill. We've put everything on this gorgeous board here, and we're just going to add little bits of fresh basil on the top, just like that, just to give it a pop of freshness. And you know, how can you go wrong with basil and tomatoes, right? It's quintessentially Italian. And then we're going to put some of that shaved Parmesan. Now, truth be told, my dad would not be putting shaved Parmesan on here. It would just be plain. You know, he wouldn't be decorating it like this on a nice board either. You know, that's kind of more my thing, but that's how I roll as well. So I'm just going to have to do him proud my way. So final thing we're going to do is drizzle this with just a little bit of balsamic glaze. Again, not something my dad would do, but you know, you have to make it a bit swoon-worthy. There you have it. Calabrese style authentic bruschetta. It's very crunchy, very garlicky, very tomatoey, very, very, very everything. I'm going to do my dad proud and dig in and take a bite. Very messy too, but incredibly delicious. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope that there are recipes, family recipes that you have, that you cherish, that you'll share with your family like this one was for me. I hope you give it a try. For the full details, please visit my blog at www.inspiredliving50.com. Happy, healthier eating.